I guess we'll call it the Wednesday edition, happy hour with Brandon Crockett. And I do have some questions. The first question I'm going to ask in a second from Rogan Rye and obviously our co host, Adam Smith. Welcome back, Adam. You missed us last Saturday with Samantha. It was a good one. This is
Right.
even better. So I think you joined this one with Brandon. So, Brandon, I have to ask, first of all, welcome to our live raw and real podcast. Things happen here, full transparency. We may drop offline. Mediacom hasn't done me any favors of late, but we'll ride the wave as we have a discussion for the next 45 minutes or so. But I got to ask you, your last name is Crockett. Are you related to Davy Crockett?
In no way, shape, or form.
Oh man.
I know the anticipation. I know there's nothing there. My mom, however, she was a special ed teacher for, I don't know, 30 something years. And
Yeah.
we probably once a month there'd be a call come in and it'd be somebody just saying, "Hey, is Davy there?" And then start singing the Davy.
Oh God.
But yeah,
Oh God.
There no relation though, huh?
no relation. I've done my research because I was very curious if I had that namesake, but no relation, unfortunately.
That's funny.
Oh, wow. Well, I tell you what. So I've had the pleasure to meet you through my partner, Alicia Vargo, who co-founded Bev Assets, and we very much appreciate our relationship. I thought maybe you could just take a few minutes to kind of give us the a little bit about you and I know that you e-commerce, right? You're in e-commerce space, have expertise there to direct to consumer, consult. So maybe tell a little bit about your journey and how you got here. We're going to interrupt you and while we drink and enjoy, but give it an attempt to tell us because Adam's a thinker, and when he hears something, he's gonna come in.
No, I love it. So obviously Rogan Rye is a consultancy for kind of with a focus on digital marketing and e-commerce, but it's been a unique journey to get here. So when I when I was just a little boy, I started playing in bands when I was, I think, seventh grade. So there's guitars all over the place, but I wanted to be Ari Gold from Entourage. So went to school for entertainment management. I think the first week that I got there, I was quickly told that you need a law degree to be Ari Gold, and I was like, well, so much for that. So kind of went to with the music thing in mind, went to facility management, worked for the Patriots for a little bit, Providence Performing Arts Center, really fun, cool lifestyle that I was getting into, but nights and weekends wasn't going to be conducive to family life. So I kind of put that in the back burner. First job out of school was selling unified communications. So the web conferencing service that we're on currently, I was selling that back in 2012. So very different world than it is now. So it's fun to see the different iterations of this. Did that for about 4 years. Senior account executive, very dry. Didn't really enjoy it. So I wanted to do something a little bit more fun. Worked for Coca-Cola for a little bit as a business or more of a market development manager. So this is where I say I have some distribution experience going into the accounts, doing a little bit of upselling, but essentially being an order taker. Oh, you need more Coke Zero? Great. Or we just came out with this new juice. Let me upsell. Let me try to get you a new cooler. So that was fun. Coca-Cola being a Fortune, what is it, maybe 50, maybe bigger than that. Very slow moving. I didn't love the culture. Great experience, but then I reached out to Greenhouse Agency. So I met with Sean Roach, who's the managing director there. Greenhouse Agency has been an experiential advertising agency, guerrilla marketing, tastings, massive agency that's national. They've had Brown Foreman on their roster for something like 20 something years. So became pretty close with Sean, and he put me as like a almost like a trial basis. Started working on a project called Bar Army. And I'm not going to share the brands that I worked with, but the 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 thought process of the program was to get bartenders to be part of a focus group where they would come together once a month. We would talk about cocktail creation, brands, strategy, giving the background of the brand, and then I came up with this idea to really increase the presence of the bartenders in this program
Yeah.
by sending them a bounty every week. Like, hey, if you post on social media you drinking this product that we're representing, you'll get $50. So the bartenders got paid to come to this lunch, and the idea behind it was we now have brand ambassadors at the point of sale. So if somebody was saying, "Hey, I want a scotch," well, I have a scotch for you. Here's the brand story. They're
Yeah.
really educated
Yeah.
on it.
I love the concept of Bar Army. I was down in Dallas at a tequila joint, and I was hanging out with the owner Shad and my friend Jesse Ott, and we were sitting outside, and he was smoking cigars. I was not, but he was smoking cigars, and we were drinking tequila. And he goes, "Oh, here comes all the street teams." He goes, "That's the Diageo street team, that's the Pernod street team, and they all were coming to pay homage to Shad." And I was
Like,
sitting there with him smoking cigars. I'm like, I'm not a street team, but you're the armies, as you say, right, that are out there hitting these accounts and ambassadors of the brands.
so yeah, just getting the bartenders really ingrained, and maybe even training their colleagues on the
Yeah.
brand that they might not actually know information about. So that program was, we were in talks to go national with a particular brand. It was a dream job, working with distributors to find top accounts, going in there, having a drink, chatting it up with the bartenders, finding the coolest bartender to be part of this program. They got a lot of swag and bonuses and paid for the lunch and bottles afterwards. But unfortunately, it's a little in the gray area, kind of pay to play. So we put the kibosh on that program. But then they shipped me out to South Carolina to manage their tasting agency arm. So you can imagine the plights of managing 350 promotional specialists, doing the tastings, chasing down receipts, getting product.
Were you, I mean, they Greenhouse uses Pinata, Pinata, right?
They had a proprietary platform before I was there, but I'm very familiar with Pinata. I've used it with
Yeah.
another agency fairly
Gotcha.
recently, but um, so yeah, that was it was a fun experience moving to Charleston in my early 20s, managing all these promotional specialists. But I was hungry. I was chasing down new business. There were other agencies in the area that I don't think we're doing a great job. So chased down new business, gobbled some up, um, and had a really good relationship with Breakthrough here in South Carolina. So I got kind of bored, wanted to move over to the supplier side. Ended up working for a tequila company called Six Degree. Um,
Okay.
one of the best tequilas I've ever tasted, but there the company ended up going under. There's a big story there if anybody wants to Google what happened. But so after I
So you
managed
went from greenhouse to 6 degrees. Is that what you did?
Greenhouse to Six Degree Tequila,
Okay. And then
um,
so 6 degree, and then they went under. And where'd you end up from there?
Owls Brew Boozy Tea. So
Okay.
they're, if you're checking out LinkedIn, they're super hot right now. I was managing the Southeast. I think it was like 5 or 6 states. So going in there, doing the account visits, doing the ride withs, general sales meetings, launching new distributors. It was a lot of fun, and I got to really get my hands dirty and try to grow the market for a very unique product. I mean, it's beer and tea, and this was right when kind of the better for you category was just emerging. So doing tastings for Owlsbury Boozy Tea, telling people about the benefits of Darjeeling tea, how it's good for your skin.
Wow.
Um, One of the co-founders is actually a tea sommelier, and I had never been to a tea tasting before. I didn't realize that you were supposed to spit the tea out, kind of like a wine tasting. So by the end of that meeting, I was amped up.
Wow.
It was a little much.
I'm a tea aficionado, by the way. We were talking about tea earlier, Adam, and I think you were telling me about the finer things of loose leaf tea, it's a thing versus tea in bags and
Mhm.
plastics and everything else. But so you did the beer and tea, and then from there, where'd you go?
From there, I actually took a little bit of a break from the industry. I went over to Peloton. I was just curious, just seeing what else is out there. Obviously, this
Sure.
industry can burn you out pretty quick. So I went over to Peloton. I was just slinging bikes. Um, pretty solid money, especially during the pandemic. But I at one point I was like, all right, I'm not passionate about exercise equipment. I want to get back into the alcohol industry. So I started looking for jobs. I saw that Speakeasy Co. was a really good blend of everything that I've done in the past: the technology on the telecom side, being on the supplier side, agency side, digital or marketing, and kind of exposure for brands. So what Speakeasy does, they were just acquired by Flaviar, but they our white label direct consumer platform where if you go on to, let's say, 1800 Tequila, you can go on there right now and you can click the buy now button. So what happens here is the brand is collecting the customer data from the customer that is purchasing the product, and then the product gets shipped across state lines, obviously as compliant as possible. And then the customer gets a unique product delivered to their doorstep, whether it's a Blanco or if it's a VAP or if there's merchandise attached to it or limited edition. So managed the team over there for about 3 years, strategic partnerships and chasing down new deals. Some really fun brands came over to the Speakeasy platform. Meili Vodka, Jason Momoa's brands. They launched with Speakeasy. AU Vodka is I always tell people that they do it best. They were killing it in the UK. I think number one e-commerce brand, regardless of vertical, and they were looking for a way to break into the US. So had a good couple great conversations with that team and kind of convinced them that hey, the data and analytics that you're going to be able to get from the e-commerce platform is going to allow you to figure out what the hot markets are, who's buying your product, where they're buying your product, demographic, geographic, um, and having the ability to ship across the country right away for a new brand just to get the exposure is a really easy, kind of low hanging fruit way to launch your brand.
So is this the world you're in now, though? But you went from there to XL Pay and then XL Pay into your own business. Is that kind of the transition of things? So
Exactly.
is your special? I mean, obviously Coca-Cola, supplier, uh, agency. I mean, you have I mean, you have a wide background in terms of if you think about the with the brand's touch points. In terms, you definitely know what's going to happen at distribution to hey, this is how the tasting agency works and this is how DTC works. That's an incredible knowledge. So tell us about Rogan Rye. Let's get into that and what Rogan Rye is and what you're doing there.
So Speakeasy to Excel Pay. Excel Pay is another e-commerce platform. Their major benefit, which nobody else can touch right now, is that they have on-demand delivery options. And
Okay.
in the Mark Brown report today, the first article said, what was it? That like the majority of Americans would like to have a beer, um, an option to buy beer online and get it shipped to your doorstep. So with Excel Pay, having the on-demand delivery option really cuts out um, the issue that a lot of brands are having with DTC, whereas as it's expensive to ship. Excel Pay solved for that problem a few different ways, but the on-demand delivery option really hits the nail on the head there. So about 5 weeks ago, might be six at this point, um, I just decided to go all in on my own consultancy. And the reason for that is the industry's changing. So clearly evident of that because there's LibDibs and Park Streets of the world. That's evidence right there. So brands are no longer relying on the R&DCs and the breakthroughs to build because as we know and what I know from Coca-Cola and having been on the supplier side, those those teams are fantastic. They're hardworking, but they're not going to help you build a new brand. So if you're a new,
No, you gotta get the before you ever show up in the store, you gotta have velocity. So I'm assuming you can help build velocity. I've been talking about it the last couple weeks, but if the buyer wants to know that he or she's gonna bet on your brand, that there's a safe bet, right?
exactly.
And so do you help that brand through a different path, right? To build sales without necessarily going through distribution? Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, there are a couple loopholes where you don't need to use a distributor. Plain
Yeah.
and simple. You can do so depending on the state, you can sell directly to consumers and ship within the state. Wine has a completely different set of laws. There is a loophole. I'm not going to name the area of the country because that's what people pay me for. But there's a place in the country where a brand can sell directly to a retailer and bypass the distribution tier, which really lends itself to new brands. If you're looking to launch, you don't have distribution, you're maybe new to world, new to the country. Um, you can use e-commerce to get your messaging out there and start building that velocity, which I'm always pointing people towards the data. So the distributors, they want to see success before they take you on, like an RNDC or a breakthrough. But how do you show success without distribution?
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg problem, right? So
So there's another chicken and egg problem that a lot of brands will see when they do sign up for e-commerce. So, question for you: what's your favorite brand, alcohol brand?
my favorite alcohol brand, you can't see it every
Ah,
time I do it.
okay, all right. Um, what's the one on the left? Actually, those are all great.
Gentleman Jack,
Lemon Jack.
Jack Daniel, Single Barrel.
Having worked at Greenhouse and doing the tastings myself, I've enjoyed a couple bottles.
Yeah, I spent 10 years with my friends at Brown Forman, the purveyors of Jack Daniels. So, you know why I like Jack Daniels, though?
Why is that? The charcoal.
It's authentic, it's consistent, and
What to
high
go with a
quality.
cigar?
It's price worth goods charged. That's what Jack Daniels said. So people challenge on the price. I make a consistent product of good quality, and Jack Daniels is an authentic person. So
I
that's
love
where
it.
the brand needs to get back to. I'm not sure where they're at on their journey. I'm not here to tell them that if they happen to watch this, but that's why. So you're so look, we've been working together. You've been giving us some potential clients and vice versa, and we love working with you, Brandon, for sure. What is like I'm a brand, okay? I'm brand new, and I want to go to market, and I want to employ me, Adam. You know, before we ever get into distribution, we're kind of talking about it, but let's just get kind of right down to it. It's like what is a brand, like what are maybe kind of the 2 to 5 steps, like kind of step one, I'm going to go talk, this is what I'm going to do for you, or this is what you need to look for when you're developing your 360 program, right, of everything. You're obviously a piece of that. Within your piece of that, what is it from an e-commerce standpoint, because this is something I don't really have a lot of expertise, and there are some questions coming in. I'll let Adam field those questions after you answer my question.
So this goes back to my question: what your favorite brand was? So you said
Yeah.
Jack Daniels. So if a brand wants to get on e-commerce, great. There are plenty of platforms that can put you on e-commerce, and you'll have that shopping functionality, and you'll be able to ship nationally. But how many times have you been to Jack Daniels website?
How many times have I been to Jack Daniel's website?
Yeah.
Zero.
And you're a fan, like you're a real fan of Jack Daniels. So this is where Rogan Rye really starts to help people. So obviously getting set up on e-commerce and all the benefits of launching a brand on e-commerce and the data and the analytics, all that fun stuff, grabbing velocity. But the only way that you're going to get people to your website is if you're spending money on digital marketing. That's it. That's the only possible way. you've never been to Jack Daniel's website, but if you were scrolling through Instagram and you saw that they were coming out with a VAP that had, I don't know, a signed record by somebody that they're working with. It's no longer just a bottle of Jack getting delivered to your doorstep, but you're getting something unique, which could be a perfect gifting opportunity, or what we like to say is an envy buying opportunity. So if you have the VAP that you can't get in stores and you show your friends, hey, how do I get that? Well, you have to go to the website to do it. And then Jack Daniels will collect your customer information, know that you like a particular SKU, and then strategically retarget you with either emails or um, specific ads because they know your profile. You like this particular rye. You live in this zip code. You're a male. You can get really strategic in your marketing efforts to convince people to repurchase. So there's a lot of different ways to kind of skin that cat to bring people to your site, keep them engaged. There's membership programs. There are um, barrel opportunities to sell entire barrels. E-commerce can be a beast, and I've seen a few brands do well over $1 million a month on the platform. So for
Holy
people
cow.
to say it doesn't work, um, I had a very interesting conversation with somebody who created a $1 billion tequila company, and he was completely unconvinced that this was a viable channel.
Were you talking about George Clooney?
I I I, I am not gonna name the name, but
Yeah.
he was just completely unconvinced. But at the same time, I know that Brown Forman is starting to look into e-commerce, and they're one of the more conservative brands out there. So if Brown Forman's doing it, the industry is really starting to
Well, here's
realize
here's the cool thing. Here's the cool thing, and I'll let Adam field the question because there's an important question coming in from Alicia to fill. But the cool thing is you don't have to be a big player to play in the space, and I think everything starts to equalize a little bit if you do it right. And
absolutely.
so I think this ties into the question that Alicia is asking, Adam. You're muted.
We have a
Nice.
dog picking up, so I'm trying to make sure I stay on mute in case they start firing off. Um, so she said, within reason, can you share with us how you think? Can you share with the team how you think out of the box, maybe sort of beyond the traditional? If there is a traditional ecom, there it is, right?
Think outside there. Alicia and I were on a call, and I came up with this wild idea that I'm not going to share on here, but you can just get really, really creative in how you're going about driving traffic. So I typically tell brands that you need at least $5,000 a month in digital ad spend, but there are a lot of opportunities and low hanging fruit where you can build your brand exposure. First and foremost, when you're when you have your bottle on a shelf, you only have that real estate. You have your label, and maybe there's a case display and maybe there's a sampling, but likely there's not. So for brands to be able to tell their story, what makes them unique, their founder story, how they're going about things in a sustainable manner rather than mass production. So being able to tell that story short form, either Instagram, Facebook, advertisement, video content, being able to get that story out to people, you're not going to be able to do that just with a bottle on a shelf. There's not enough real estate. So low hanging fruit, create some content. Then what I'm working with a brand, Paul Cullen Wines. So Paul Cullen is the former bass player of Bad Company.
I
So
didn't realize that when I was talking to him on the phone, and I grew up on Bad Company's music, so I'm like, man, I got to call Paul back.
I'm constantly putting on Bad Company radio on Spotify. It's such a great playlist. But
Yeah.
because Paul has in-home dining, he has a wine collection, he has a music venue, he's got a foundation that sends kids that are interested in culinary to Italy to go train. Like there's a lot of stuff going on there, but you're not going to know that if you just see his wine. So what I'm currently doing is redoing his website, completely optimizing it for e-commerce, focusing on the bottles themselves, and then using that short form content to tell the story. All right, Paul was in this band. He played in front of 55,000 people. People might get interested in just that story. Then if the people really enjoy the wine, great. Maybe let's get them
Yeah.
into a subscription service where there's
So when
guaranteed
so
revenue.
when does conversion happen? Does it happen at different times? Is there a particular set time? Like I got the consumer, now they're on me, and then that's the life. I have this for the lifetime. Is there a point where you convert the consumer in this journey? We put all this stuff out there about Paul and his offerings, and you're
So
communicating it via the virtual, digital.
conversion rates are, I was surprised to know what conversion rates actually were when people visit your website. It's typically around 5%, and that's on the high end.
Okay.
So you need to get a lot of eyeballs on your website, and you do that through the digital marketing and the PR that we're working on and your story. Really convince them to go to your website. But now that they're on your website, it's better to have a few different options. Sure, they want to buy your bottle, but create a bundle with merchandise, create a limited time online exclusive offering that's great for a gift set. Maybe put together, for example, when I was over at Speakeasy, we had Nick Jonas come into the warehouse and sign guitars for his tequila. So if a fan wants a signed guitar by Nick Jonas, they have to buy 3 bottles of tequila and spend a couple $100 on it. So by having those unique packages, limited time, envy buying scenario, you're gonna have that customer a little bit more engaged, or maybe they'll have a wearable. But now this person's gonna have a signed guitar hanging on their wall, and every time they look at it,
Adam's starting to think, okay, get the tequila order in to get the guitar, man.
exactly.
So,
They're gonna have the guitar on the wall, and they're gonna know that I got that guitar because I purchased the tequila. So you're creating a deeper relationship with your customer, but now you actually know who that customer is. Their name, their email address, their location, what
right.
SKUs
And
they
then
get.
there's more activity that you can activate in order to start talking with that consumer. It's kind of like what we do on, LinkedIn. Like we have a LinkedIn newsletter I do, and I don't own the data, on that LinkedIn newsletter. So, I mean, with e-commerce, you own the data, right? So you have that address, the email, then you can start to build that relationship. There's another question. I don't know if that was someone typing out. Adam, what's that question there on Rogan Rice specializes in compliance strategy, go-to-market distribution, sales as well. Correct? I don't know if
Correct.
that's coming from Alicia. Is that Alicia
Yeah,
again?
that was Alicia again. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate enough to have an amazing network of partners like Bev Assets, like Mushroom Media, who's a digital marketing agency. The
Yeah. So we
partners
just talked about one piece of your agency is what she's saying. So let's get into more of the nitty gritty of what you do and how you can help
I'm still
folks.
figuring it out. I'm just a couple of weeks in. I think
Yeah.
I'm because of my experience, obviously in e-commerce, and on the agency side and on the brand side, I'm really helping brands either with route to market strategy, e-commerce being a massive pillar of that, or
Yeah.
really just optimizing. So if you have a website that's up, Paul Collins is a great example. Where I'm completely redoing his website for e-commerce. We're going to take the data, figure out what markets are hot, where we should expand. Then we're going to look at different distributors, fractionalized sales teams. We're going to think about what tasting agencies to use, what the budgets are going to be around that. And then for kind of low hanging fruit, create a street team, just kind of like what we were talking about for his
Yeah. So
brand.
you I mean you can do the whole commercial plan from A to Z
Exactly.
uh, with clients. That's brilliant. Um, Adam, any questions over there?
I want to see your face when I ask this question, Brandon, and I understand it's the ALK space, so it's not going to track. But I do a lot of work with non-ALK, And so, of course, I get, you know where this is going. I get a lot of e-com questions about Amazon. And my comment as the ops guy is always like, make the math make sense to me, because I've been doing this 8 years. No one's done it yet. For a new brand, to the first thing they do is sell on Amazon. I've never seen it be financially viable. I've never seen anyone paint the math in a way that it's doable. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying somebody prove me wrong.
So that's a really good point, and a lot of new brands do struggle with this.
Sure.
When you're a completely new brand, going onto e-commerce, I think, is the best option because you can have national reach, or if you want to get really strategic in your digital marketing, focus on particular areas.
Sure.
Shipping is not cheap. And this is why I brought up ExcelPay's ability to do on-demand delivery, because that's going to change the game completely.
Sure.
So when a new brand is launching, you almost want to think about e-commerce as it could be in a marketing budget. So getting the liquid to lips out to people so they know your brand. Hopefully they're going to come back or maybe sign up to be part of a subscription where they're going to get product delivered to their doorstep once a month.
Yep.
But now you have a customer in California when you're only on the East Coast. There's something there. You got liquid to lips, you have a fan. Hopefully they create user generated content, which is really cheap and easy to repost. And then if that person tells their friends and you have a hot spot in California that's purchasing your product, great. You might not have made a ton of money on selling, I don't know, 10 cases of product, but you know that California is a new market for you to go break in, put boots on the ground, and then really generate some velocity. So for a new brand, definitely think about it as more of a marketing play. But again, I've seen brands bring in millions of dollars a month on this platform.
Yeah, well, I think of it as seed planting, right? So you're putting your seeds out there to grow your consumer base. I also think about it is that you can take that consumer base that people you're speaking to, and I would start talking to my distributors. Like I'm assuming I can get down to zip code and state where these distributors exist. I've gone to my website and say over 10,000 consumers have actually hit my website in the Charlotte area. Breakthrough. This is why you want to take me on as an opportunity or whatever distributor, right? I would use the data to tell the story.
So
All day long.
instead of walking in as a supplier, as a sales guy for a supplier, walking into the store, talking to the owner, here, try it. Do you like it? Will you buy it? Here's the one sheet for the brand story. But if you were armed with, hey, here are all the people in the area that have purchased the product recently. This is the seasonality. This is the SKU that they like. This is the demographic. Why am I not on your shelf? Here's the proof, not try it. Do you like it? Will you buy it?
Right, because then you could argue the velocity per point of distribution, or whatever, the VPO, and you basically say, in this outlet, I have 10,000 people. I know they're in this zip code, and I know for a fact they're actually shopping in your store. And I also can tell you they're looking for my product because they've told me they are. As a matter of fact, let me give you. You could probably even throw, like Shirley said, where can I find your product? I get 10 of those a day. Where can I find your product? Right. So that's what I've been talking about, like the last couple of weeks, is if you're going to go get distribution with a customer or distributor, bring the data. And that's why I was excited to talk to you today, Brandon, because I know you do more than just e-commerce, but it's such a big piece of the business that people, I think, are missing. It's almost like I had a founder tell me they'll think about their go-to-market strategy once they're up and running. Like what? Like, I mean, but so many people, maybe have you heard that, Adam? Have you heard, like, yeah, we'll put that on the back burner. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
No,
I have one. I won't name him. He's a very nice kid, and I can say he's a kid because he's like 26.
Is it an RTD? Is it a salt?
It's a non-alc RTD.
Oh, okay.
And I won't name the product, and I won't name him. And if he's listening to this, I love you dearly. I love working with you. But he and I have had the conversation. He got to production, and I said, "Cool." Like, he was there the day he reached out to me, the day we had a phone call, and I said, "Cool. What's your cost of goods?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I need to figure that out." Huh.
Hmm.
That's an interesting way to go about that. Okay. And he said, yeah, I need to, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, yeah, I need to figure that out so I can figure out my margin, so I can figure out what I should be selling it for. And I'm thinking, like, again, product is running behind you. Like, huh, okay, right?
Did he
So
have a blank check or?
no, like he was bootstrapping it with money he had saved, right? So like I told him, I said, you shot yourself in the foot, just so we're clear. We can triage this because you didn't shoot yourself in the chest. Like
Yeah.
we can figure out how to walk again, but it's gonna be painful. He was like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
right? Like, and
Well,
we're on the same page, and we've had some difficult conversations. He's a good dude, but it happens a lot.
Folks that
yeah,
are
that's what I'm learning in this journey is you got to be upfront. And look, I've full transparency. I always use that word. We make mistakes, but we're getting to the point where we're just so bold and honest. We're like, this is what you can expect. Because some people are like, well, if I employ your services, can you give me a distributor next week? No, maybe,
Right,
yes.
right,
It's everything in between because there's no guarantee. It might be that the distributor wants you because something this hits them or the timing is just right, but there's no guarantees in anything. So you got to be upfront and honest with these folks. But I think you and Adam do an incredible service by bringing the knowledge. Like, hey, if I can do DTC and I can go to the unsaid state that you talked about without going through distribution because distribution won't take me. Well, look, I have a path for you. Like we talked to a lot of people like I can't get distribution. I'm like, I tell you what, I'm gonna introduce you to Brandon. Brandon has a path for you, and let's start there. Okay, you're thinking. I'm saying
no,
something that got
no,
you
you're fine.
sparked over there on the right.
Well, so Brandon, I've got, because I know we're about to run short on time. I've got two. One's a question, and one's, I guess, a question, but it's more of a statement. So, um, the general question is twofold. When it comes to non-alc brands, because right, like I told you before we hopped on the recording, like I work with very much canned RTDs, whether that's functionals like energy drinks, very simple stuff, or like mushrooms and THC, all the way over to your hard seltzers, whether that's a GNS or malt based or whatever, right? But I don't do a ton of work in like bottled 750 ml spirits, right? I'm happy to. I'm happy to help where I can, but that's not where my expertise has been, right? Point I'm getting at the question is either A, if someone is maybe hyper small, like just getting started in the alk space, whether that's a beer or a seltzer, because I've got a gentleman there I'm talking to, but I mean, when I say hyper small, I mean, he's talking to me to try and figure out what operationally his costs will be and talking to other folks to figure out what other things will look like so that he can maybe extrapolate out some numbers to have like an investor deck, right? So there's him. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of non-alc folks. So my first question is, are you open to talking to both of those groups? Yes, no, one or the other? And if the answer is no, do you have folks you recommend?
I'll talk to anybody. I mean,
Okay.
it's basically the principles are the same.
Sure.
Creating demand through digital marketing, driving traffic to the website, creating unique product sets, LTOs, VAPs. It's the same formula.
Do you have a one pager on that you could share with us when I publish this actually as a podcast? I can share with folks, Brandon, that people
Yeah,
could use.
absolutely. And I've said it once before, but I really think that e-commerce is becoming a necessity, no longer a want. It needs to be part of your arsenal just because of the data play and the access to the entire country. However, kind of back to your point, Sam, if a brand wants to get distribution, you can't guarantee anything happens within a couple of weeks. The industry has historically moved very, very slow. I was at a conference not too long ago, and I think in Colorado, you need to send your registration via fax. That's the only way to do it. But the legislators were on the panel. They could easily sign the pen to get that law changed, but we know this industry historically moves pretty slow. So that being said, there are a lot of people apprehensive of e-commerce, but we're really starting to see the LibDibs and the Park Streets and the DTC providers like ExcelPay start to change things. Everybody's feeling a little little off right now within the industry. 20,000 people got laid off. So there's a big shakeup happening. Was it Brown-Forman moved away from their spirits distributor?
So RNDC in California lost Brown-Forman and Tito's
So,
in a time of 60 days, and they both went to Reyes,
so
which was a very difficult thing.
and they're going to Reyes because they know that they're going to get a little bit more attention and probably brand building within those accounts, because those beer salespeople, they're going to be excited about selling spirits, something new. So there's a lot of pressure on brands to tell their story, do their own marketing, grab their own customers, rather than just relying on the distributors to brand build. And
Yeah.
that's where it all comes back to e-commerce. It puts the
Yeah.
brand in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and then I think your feet on the street you're talking about, because we bring that to market. Obviously, about. I want to. Andrew has been communicating with us. My next label will have a QR code that encourages them to work with us to capture the customer info, so that I can work with local liquor stores or bars, restaurants in our market to drive traffic into the store, bar, restaurant, using a side marketing company to get them sample product. So does that resonate with you? That seems really creative to me.
It's definitely creative, and there's really no, so the way that the e-commerce platforms all work is that everything is still moving through the three-tier system. So brand sells to distributor, distributor retailer, and when the customer is on that brand website, they're actually purchasing from a retailer. For samples, it does make things a little bit difficult because you're going to have to buy product from the retailer to get it shipped. But if you want to use that as a marketing expense and pay for it or offer a discount code, brands have that option to kind of get product in hands pretty cheap.
Yeah, I've talked to some people where name that they're actually getting to the point where they're going to drive consumers through influencers into accounts and actually give them a spend, so they can actually spend money in the account. So $30, you give a spend. I think that's ingenious. So it takes the distributor. You need a distributor. Let's be really clear here. I mean, I couldn't scale and build a whole logistics company, but at the end of the day, if you want to manage your outlook or your success is e-commerce, and then use influencers to steer those people to accounts. There's so many things you can do, from a route to market, sampling, as you said, Brandon. So we got a couple minutes left. I want to give you the table to maybe, and we can go a little over, but what would you want to leave the group with about, about the space that you're in? I mean, you obviously, compliance, strategy, go to market, distribution. We touched a lot on e-commerce. I mean, you are you're like a savant, not a savant. I guess it's like what's the word I'm looking for, Adam or Brandon? But
Yeah,
you're a jack of many trades.
None. That's kind of how I see myself. Just because I've had my hands in all these different facets, and
Right.
I'm one of, I don't know, a couple hundred folks that have been in the e-commerce space since its inception within this industry. I've worked with brands doing the $1 million a month. I've worked with the mom and pops that are only moving a couple cases, and then having to figure out how we optimize that. When I was at both Speakeasy and ExcelPay, I didn't really have the opportunity to help these brands optimize. And that's what gets me really excited. And obviously I'm passionate about it, but being able to get in there, do the work, set up the segmented email campaigns, do the digital marketing, or if it's more enterprise, make introductions to folks. We talked about it earlier before we started recording, but I'm a big believer that your network is your net worth. So if I don't know how to do something, I have such a fantastic team behind me: Bev Assets, Mushroom Media, ExcelPay, just to name a few, ASC. But I kind of see myself as the tip of the spear. If you want to get started, you want to optimize, you're only in a couple states. All right, you need a tasting agency, got you. Greenhouse. You need feet on the street and distribution, Bev Assets. You need digital marketing, Mushroom Media. You need an e-commerce platform, ExcelPay. So I have all these, such a solid.
You and Adam need to talk, because Adam has services too that he can help you out with. So I'll let you guys do that offline. So
This
for sure.
team, if somebody's coming off of Wall Street, and we've all seen it, hey, I'm coming off of Wall Street, I want to launch this RTD, I'm going to sell 1 million cases a year because I got a massive check. Those guys don't know what they're doing, but if they were to reach out to this team specifically, we have the roadmap. We can get that brand running and gunning pretty quickly, with little to no work on the brand side, as long as they create the content and hire the right people. But we're like a turnkey service. So I hope somebody sees that and thinks about when they're starting their brand and going through the registration process and thinking about all the unique state laws and import export and trying to get in front of distributors that won't
Yeah.
email you back. We have those relationships pre-built, so it's startup the
So how do
car.
people get a hold of you? What's are you available, or what's the story there?
Yeah, absolutely. The website is tryroganrye.com. Active on LinkedIn all day, every day. Email is brandon@tryroganrye.com. I'm pretty available. I'm hungry. I'm taking any and every
I'll
call.
put that. I'll put that like a little thing on. If you can send me the one pager, would be really good.
Absolutely.
Like to give always someone a one pager on the stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Adam. Any other closing thoughts on your standpoint or questions of Brandon?
No, I mean, I think we can keep going for hours, not only on ecom, but just on some of the other buckets. But if you've heard me or seen me looking away and feverishly typing, Brandon, there's an introduction coming to, there's an introduction coming to one of the brands I mentioned here shortly, because I think he could very much benefit from a conversation with you. And then I have a buddy that's actually looking to do like ecom conversion for call it a pet brand right now, and I'll leave it at that because it's still his full-time job. But he's looking to do some consulting in the CPG world, and I think like for as much as I can walk him through, I've been doing this for 5 months in the ops side. Like I don't speak the language the way you will, and so I think if you're willing, A, he could be a good resource for you, and B, if you're willing to let him pick your brain, it would be wonderful for him. So thank you for the time, and it's a pleasure to meet you. And I will absolutely be following up because I think you've got a wealth of knowledge, and I would love to learn more about it. So
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Book a call.
Yeah,
Send you the Calendly link.
That's the beauty of all of us coming together. Your network is your net worth, and I've made a lot of friends here, and you're always welcome to come here. By the way, you can stop by anytime. You can join us as we've had a couple people come back and do a co-host with Adam and I. We would love to have you. You're always welcome. We're here every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We usually get on the call about 9:15, and we go live.
Let's
For sure. So
let's see if we can get Paul Collin from Bad Company to join us.
will he play some guitar when he comes on, man?
I think he would. That's part of our strategy, getting more content going, showing people the story. And we're gonna direct them to his website to buy some wine. So
yeah, okay. So you bring him on. Let's do it. You just pick the date, and we can do a special date. So we can do another happy hour with Paul for sure. I would love to do that. That would be fantastic. Everybody out there listening, can't promise it, but Brandon just put it out there that we might have a Bad Company guest or a surprise guest. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but obviously, sometimes I try to get guests on here, have to go through their teams. It's like, you have a team? Like, how many followers do you have? Yeah, just talk to my PR team or whatever. So, that would be fabulous. You are his PR team, so that'd be great.
I am his PR team, and that's part of the strategy. Just getting the word out there. It's another easy way and cheap way to drive traffic to your website.
Right. We didn't even mention PR. You are in PR too, so you are a jack of all trades, and you're a master of all of them, by the way. So I would say, Brandon, you're always welcome here. Thanks everybody for joining us. I hope everybody enjoyed the conversation today. And with that, we'll end. If you two could just hang on for a second, when I end, I'll explain why. But everybody have a great Wednesday and upcoming weekend.
Thanks, everybody.
So on your phone, it just makes sure that it downloads so you can see. I can see. So you guys are good.